Okay, so hi, Mom. So we just finished reading about the straitjacket. Remember, sanity is perspective in the mind. At least that's what Rachel said. All right, so they're still in the airplane, and after they talked about the straitjacket and everybody wearing one, David grinned and said, "Like I said, that's one way of looking at it." Rachel sat silently, afraid to say more, afraid to say too much, and so she finally said, "This girl that I'm going to stay with, is she your girl?" Hmm. She'd say that's a matter of perspective, David laughed. But you love her? Yep. He banked the plane and set course for Narahi. Have you known her very long? 3 years, since 1944. I met her at the Hollywood Canteen. You ever heard of that? No, no, I guess not. He scratched his chin. It was a terrific place where servicemen could go to dance and meet girls, and it was in Hollywood. You know, where they make the movies? You know about movies. I have never seen one, but I have heard. Anyway, sometimes movie stars like Lana Turner or Betty Grable would show up. Gorgeous dames. David's voice became animated at the memory. But believe me, they have got nothing on you. Rachel tried to follow his words and translate them into Polish when a phrase escaped her comprehension. Only bits and pieces of the whole came through. "And you met your girl there?" she asked, hungry to know stories of love and courtship. "Is she a movie star?" "No, but she could be. Red hair, a shishka, whatever." "Anyway, I saw her when the band was playing String of Pearls by Glenn Miller, and I said to myself, she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen." He paused and looked hard at Rachel, his smile fading. "What is it?" she asked. He looked into her eyes and felt lost for a moment. "Nothing. I just didn't know anybody really had eyes like that. That's all." "Her eyes are beautiful then?" "No, I mean, yes, gorgeous, but I was talking about your eyes. They are beautiful." Rachel looked away, studying her hands clasped in her lap. She felt a rush of embarrassment, even shame, that he had noticed her. "My eyes have seen too much to be beautiful any longer," she said. "Nonsense! You're still a person, aren't you?" "I have not thought that for a long time, David." "Well, you are, and some day the band is going to be playing Glenn Miller, and you'll be standing with a group of girls talking, like your girl was, like Ellie, and some guy is going to spot you across the room, and that'll be it. And he'll say, 'Hey, beautiful, do you want to dance?' Just like John Wayne or somebody, and he'll sweep you right off your feet." "That sounds like a lovely dream," Rachel sighed. "An American dream." "Yeah. How do they do it here then?" Well, a matchmaker arranges for a suitable family." "Arranges," David said, incredulous. "Oh, yes, my parents have arranged for my marriage with a boy not far from Warsaw. I had not met him, but my days I spent imagining what he was like." "How old were you when this all got settled?" "9," she said, and her eyes sparkled. You know what? I'm lost, Mom. Let me find my page. She's 9. Eh. David shook his head in disbelief. "You're right. Sanity is a matter of perspective." And he laughed. "So what happened to him?" Rachel looked away nervously, sat in silence for a long moment. He was. She paused, searching for words to convey the horrors of the Nazi occupation: starvation, mass graves, mindless murder, and finally she chose the simplest terms. "He died with his family, and my mother, father, and brothers. Everyone, even the matchmaker." David swallowed hard. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "That was a dumb question." "They took me from the line," she continued, as if unable to stop the flood of memories. "I was stripped, examined, and then I was branded for use for the pleasure of men who murdered my family. I was no longer a person." "How old were you?" 14. "A child." Full of dreams, her eyes were shining with tears. I'm sorry, I have not shared this with anyone. There has been no one who has seen me among so many. David gripped the control stick hard as he imagined her loneliness. There must be someone who would understand, he said. To my own people, I am a traitor. I should have died. I should have. Her voice trailed off. I had a friend once. The engine droned on as Rachel's face clouded with the memory. She was 1 year younger than I. She became pregnant, and she knew she would be gassed. It was a rule, you see. So she stabbed a Gestapo colonel. She closed her eyes. They lined us up one morning and made us watch her execution. I only wish that I could have been so courageous. David felt inadequate, groping for words of comfort. But you lived through it all. In my book, that takes a special kind of courage. You are kind. She looked at him through eyes that were brimmed with pain. I would have given anything to be that American girl on the dance floor. I am 21 now, and my dreams are all buried in the ashes of Auschwitz. At night I lie on my bed and ask God where he has gone, why I was not allowed to die. He does not answer. Okay, that was hard, Mom. Ellie and Moshe stood anxiously beside the truck parked at the side of the Nahara field. The radio blared the news for the Sumerians bombing. Of the Sumerians bombing, and Ellie shivered, not from the cold of the day, but from wondering the fate of Miriam's son and grandson. The old woman will be frantic, she thought. Oh, Mom, remember Miriam's stage? She's in the building that Hassan, I think it's Gerhardt, bombed. Miriam will be frantic. The little Arab family only had each other. The names of the dead and the wounded have not been released pending notification of kin, the radio announcer continued. Moshe put his arm around her. Your uncle will be there with her, Ellie. There is little you can do. I know that. It's just that she is such a terrific old woman, Moshe. If we were working for and with the people who could do such a thing. It was not the Haganah, he said irritably. That much I can tell you. Maybe those idiots in the Ingru would do such a thing. Maybe it was an accident. I don't know what to tell you, but it is not Haganah. I would have known. I would have not permitted it. Her grandson is a violinist. Ellie imagined broken bodies among the rubble. A violinist, she repeated. It just seems so ridiculous that somebody like that could hurt. Moshe rubbed his hands wearily across his forehead. 6 million violinists, poets, dreamers, and doctors died within the last 6 years simply because they were Jewish. Nobody ever said anything that makes sense. Sometimes, perhaps, the story is just one more moving than the number. Just one more moving the number. Perhaps it is too hard to imagine that so many died without a cause. Ellie turned her face toward the gray sky and listened for the faint drone of David's airplane. She switched off the radio and sat forlornly at the edge of the truck running board as the sputtering speck in the distance took shape, finally circling over and above them. He looked at his watch. He's late. As usual, Ellie said. David landed smoothly on the concrete runway and without switching off the engine rolled to a stop near the truck. He opened the door, dumped out a sack of mail for a Sabro woman to retrieve, and then he waved to Ellie and Moshe to board. Moshe opened the door of the buzzing little aircraft and helped Ellie in the back, where Rachel sat cross-legged on a mail pouch. Seeing Rachel, Ellie balked and glared suspiciously at David. Hurry up, David said. I'm late. We noticed, Ellie said dryly as she took her seat next to Rachel. As Moshe boarded, David made quick introductions. Rachel Lucan, this is Ellie Warren. Rachel smiled kindly at Ellie and timidly extended her hand. You must be David's girl. Ah, that's a matter of opinion. But I'm Ellie anyway, she returned the smile. And this is Moshe Sacker. Moshe turned and recognized Rachel in the shadow of the cargo area for the first time. His smile faded as he was once again astonished at her beauty. And then he beamed. You! It is you! she exclaimed with delight as she reached out and shook his hand vigorously. "Oh, I see you two have met," David said cheerfully as he taxied out on a much slower takeoff than usual. "One very dark night, Mr. Satcher taught me to swim," Rachel replied. A surge of jealousy passed through Ellie when she realized that this must be the woman Ehud had used to win the chess game. Every word that he had said about her was true, and then some. Remember, Mom, Ehud said she was gorgeous, beautiful, wonderful, all these great things. "You have been well?" Moshe asked, his eyes lingering in a way that Ellie distinctly disapproved of. "David has helped me locate my family." She pulled the letter from her sweater pocket and handed it to Moshe, who read it quickly. "Mazel tov," he said sincerely. "So now you're returning to be home." "If there is a home to return to," David quipped. "Did you hear we blew up an Arab hotel?" "In the first place, it was not our men," Moshe said. And again, Mom, I lost my spot. "Ellie has friends staying there," Moshe shot back angrily. "Oh," David's bantering ceased. "Sorry, Els. Open mouth, insert foot, huh?" Rachel bit her lower lip in concern and gazed sympathetically at Ellie. "I hope no one is injured." She wanted to reach out and put her hand on Ellie's arm in comfort, but instead crossed her arms and looked away. "I'm sorry." "David, do you remember Miriam?" Ellie ignored Rachel. "It is her son and grandson." "The old woman?" "Yes." "Tough as a boot?" "You are just a picture of concern," Ellie snapped sarcastically. Moshe changed the subject quickly. "Where does your family live, Rachel?" "It is only my grandfather. He is a rabbi in the old city." "Do you have a place you can stay till I get in?" Rachel looked nervously toward David. "Well, David chewed his lip thoughtfully. "I figured maybe Ellie could put her up for a few days." Rachel looked down at the mail sack, pretending not to notice the look of aggravation that crossed Ellie's face. "But if it is a bother," Ellie glared at the back of David's head. "No bother at all," she said difficultly. "Good." Moshe rubbed his hands together. "Then it is settled." "Didn't I tell you Ellie was terrific?" David said, yawning. Ellie turned to stare out the window as Rachel studied her with eyes full of understanding. She hesitantly reached out and tapped her lightly on the arm. Ellie turned slightly without looking at her full in the face. "I'm all right," Ellie said. "A little edgy, maybe, worried, you know. I can find a room at the hotel if it's an inconvenience." "Forget it. Really." Ellie felt ashamed of her jealousy. "It will be all right." Rachel gazed solemnly down at the road below and the tiny trucks that crawled along towards Jerusalem. Okay, so that was a short little jaunt, Mom, but we're going to finish there. And then I'll send you the next one. So Rachel's going to stay with Ellie, which sounds kind of bad because I think Ellie kind of likes Moshe and David and can't make up her mind. And now there's Rachel, who she feels pretty jealous over. Evidently, Rachel's some raving beauty. Must be like Jan. I'm kidding. I love you, Mom. Okay, have a fabulous rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow.